Okay, good news. It was right on top of a pile of stuff on my desk. So, syllabi chart in your packet. It probably was just before the page, it's probably at the very end. And it's a chart that starts off looking like this, where it has, at the top, it has the five syllable vowels, A, E, I, O, and U. And then the thing that is unusual about Mayan symbols and glyphs is that there is more than one glyph that represents the same sound. So you could have people that have the same name and they write it in different ways. We see that sometimes these days with different ways of, like, my first name is Molly, and I spell it M-O-L-L-Y, but I have met people that spell it M-O-L-L-I-E. There are sometimes different ways of making the same sounds. So you're going to see as you go through the chart that there are rows where it tells you what consonant it connects with, or in the case of this first row, that it's a pure vowel. So things that are just A, just E, just I, just O, just U, those are in that first row. Then down here we have B combined with A versus E versus I versus O versus U. And as you go through the pages, you also have things like ch, ch, A-E-I-O-U, H, ha, he, he, ho, hu, etc., etc., etc. Some of these have gotten a little twisted around. So every now and then, like we've seen with step 2 here, is, so what if you know what syllables you need, but one or more of the squares of one of the syllables you need is empty. So if you needed B-E, like I did in Elizabeth, well, for some reason, either that's just not a letter combination that got used in Maya, or we just haven't found a glyph that represents that sound. If that's the case, then you need to pick another vowel that you feel is close. So in my case, and that's why I put this in orange on here, instead of B-E, I wound up using B-A. So I picked one of the glyphs from here. So sometimes it might be empty and you have to pick another one. In other cases, it also gives an example if you need the syllable W-U. There's nothing in W-U. So in that case, they used a consonant A to get W-U, so W-A plus U. There's more than one way we can go about this. I want to see that you have tried. It is okay if you are a little befuddled by things. This is mostly meant to be fun and try something out. But I think some of you guys are getting stuck because you feel like it has to be perfect. So now then what if you have a consonant that isn't even in the syllabi? Or if you have one of those sounds like TH or SH or CH, where it makes one sound because two things are together. They give an example that Maria, there isn't an R sound in Mayan. So they recommend switching in an L. And they even acknowledge it might seem unfair, but it's okay. What we're doing is we're changing the name a little bit to reflect how ancient Maya would probably have tried to pronounce your name. Different languages make different sounds. And so sometimes there's just not a good substitute. It does have a chart on page 36 when you're looking at your different syllables. And if there are certain letters, such as Z in Elizabeth, there's not a Z in Maya. So what we substitute with is this sound, this TZ plus a vowel that you can find in the syllabi. Or there's not really a TH sound, so we do X. So Elizabeth gets a lot of changes. We go from Elizabeth to Eliza ba xa. So there's a lot of changes involved. That's okay. We're doing this for funsies, and we're gonna get creative. I don't think Kellum wound up with any changes, and Molly doesn't wind up with any changes. This is the one that has the most that flip around. So make it to where you can find some sort of symbol in this chart for each syllable. Before we start drawing the syllables, though, you're going to pick out a main syllable. Picking out that main syllable is why I asked you to circle the syllable that gets the most accent in your name. Because the main syllable is going to go, if your name has 2 syllables, use the syllable that is accented when you pronounce your name. If your name has 3 to 5 syllables, the main syllable is usually the middle syllable. But if your name has 4 or 6, you should choose one of the syllables near the middle of your name to be the main syllable. Ideally, the syllable is emphasized in the pronunciation of your name, and it should be a syllable that has a nice square-shaped glyph in the syllabi chart. So the main syllable goes in that big main square. So on these examples, the main syllable goes in the center, and then the others go around it. So we want, now that we've done this top part, we're doing this bottom part, where, remember, we can write our name more than one way. I want you to try more than one way. So you're making at least 2 different ways of arranging the syllables. So I went through and I found symbols with Molly. I did a main syllable in the middle for each. This, I used carbon paper to trace the syllables. I'll make a separate video about carbon paper. I did go over that in class. In here, I just hand drew main syllables, large and in the middle. Dr. Kellum did his in the middle. I think he got his a little bit off center when he was doing his carbon paper. That's okay. We can still get it figured out. He still did 2 different ones. Then you put any syllable that comes before the main syllable, go in the prefix or superfix positions. So anything that comes before your main symbol connects either up top or to the left. Usually the first goes in here in prefix. So Dr. Kellum found a hand to connect to that middle symbol, this here. With Molly, the main syllable, ma, doesn't have anything before it, so I don't have anything in those spaces. In Elizabeth, the second syllable is the main one, so I have my first syllables over here in that prefix area. Wrong way. There we go. All right. So the main sign is where you put your main syllable in your name. It should be one of the bigger square-shaped glyphs if you can manage that. And the syllables that come before the main syllable are in the prefix or superfix positions. The very first syllable goes in the prefix position. The syllables that come after the main syllable go in the positions for suffix and subscript. So Anything that comes after your main sign goes in post or suffix, here or here. So on here, the syllables that I had after li, so za, ba, za, go under and to the side. Since it's particularly long, something I experimented with was I wound up putting the syllable that is kind of was runner up for being a main syllable. I put it just behind that main syllable and then put this one under that. That way it kind of reads from this symbol to here, to there, to here, to there. If you just have the two, easy peasy. I found that I liked putting it underneath. I thought that made it easier to line up. So I had my main syllable and then the second syllable. Main and second, main and second, main and second. For Dr. Callum, he's got his beginning syllable here and here, and he's got the next one. He's got his main syllable in the middle, and then he has the next two here and here, here and here. So here's where we're going to go with. The goal is to get all the syllable glyphs bunched around the main glyph. They should touch. When you're still experimenting in these smaller blocks, it's okay if they don't quite yet touch. You're experimenting with these. These are the brainstorming ones. What your goal is to get all of these to come together that kind of looks like a square with rounded corners. So everything should kind of moosh together. If you've got more than 5 syllables, it does give you some different layouts that you could try. And it also says, hey, you can be creative. You can experiment, just like I've been telling you. I'm mostly wanting to see that you guys try something out. I want to see, like, if something gets lost in the details, I am not going to be picky in this circumstance. So play around with it. One thing that Dr. Kellum had fun with is that he realized with his syllables that when he was looking at all the different options he had in the syllabi charts, his main syllable he thought kind of looked like a hot dog, and one of the syllables that he could put on the right kind of looked like a face with its mouth open, and he also had one that looked like a hand. So he decided, and he tried to make his final symbol look like a person that's eating a hot dog. Just, it's goofy, but it's okay. I like animals, so for mine, I tended to pick glyphs that had things that looked like animals. So for Elizabeth, I wound up using this one that kind of looks more like it might be a jaguar type face and some kind of bird with like a snake going on. For that name, for Molly, I still kept that bird symbol. And then I made the other symbol. You see how much more stretched out it is than the original? Because I'm trying to get it to be that big square-ish shape. So the big square is where I want you to take a look at all the different ideas and different ways you've tried mushing up things together. And I want you to figure out what your favorite combination is and then write it over here nice and big. I made it real big over here so that you could make it nice and big and you could draw it out. If you want, you can, I went through and tried to make some of my lines thicker and thinner to make it look visually interesting. In my case, I still had those outlines, but since I have 5 syllables and I wanted to be sure that The last one here came after this one here. I put it underneath here. It's okay if we do some stuff to kind of make it squish into kind of a box shape. Dr. Kellum didn't make it big, but he did put it in the right area in that it goes over here. So, and if you're using a new printed off one of these, then it's written down here. Use your favorite combination and customizations and write your Mayan glyph name large and here. So to recap, because I know that this seems like a lot because I'm trying to show lots and lots of different ways because everybody's is going to be a little different. I need you to be able to look at the steps and figure out which ones apply to you and which ones don't. You have your step 1 is getting your name and breaking your name into syllables. So you're just writing your name and then breaking it into syllables. Step 2, you're figuring out the symbols that you're going to be using, and in order to get those arranged properly, you're going to need to figure out what your main syllable is, and you're going to need to look up the symbols that are available to you in the chart. And if there is a symbol that you need, a sound that has a vowel and a consonant, and you don't see a good option, then you need to have a substitution. And you're going to find your substitutions right here. Then you're going to be taking those symbols and you're going to be connecting them in different ways until you find one that you kind of like. You're going to put your main syllable in the middle. Anything that comes before that main syllable goes in one of these 2 locations, with syllable number 1 going here in the prefix position. Anything that comes after the main syllable goes in either the post or suffix positions. You're going to try to make it look like a big rounded rectangle or square when you get it all together. So everything's going to touch. It's going to look like a square with rounded corners. And you're going to experiment. You're going to try out at least 2 different ways of writing your name, and then you're going to pick your favorite, and you're going to make it nice and big over here. I hope that helps and isn't as confusing as... I hope that you guys have fun with it and not get overwhelmed by it. And I will talk to you soon. Just give it a try.